Hello and welcome to the EnSpirit podcast, where we inspire you to develop and enhance your entrepreneurial talents and skills. This series is packed full of information, tips and interviews that help you change and find the edge in your game. I'm your host, Beju Solanki. I'm a performance psychologist and I've been working with entrepreneurs and business owners for the last 25 years, helping them improve their game. To find out more information about me, please look on all social media platforms, but specifically Clubhouse and Instagram. Before we launch this week's episode, I'd love to tell you about the Change Your Game scorecard. If you're struggling to achieve what you really want and you're not sure where to start, the Change Your Game scorecard will help you identify where you need to improve. Life is a game, and there are 3 core games you need to conquer to succeed in life. That's the inner game, your mindset, your emotions, your thoughts. Your game plan, that's your strategy and your roadmap. And then your outer game, how consistent and persistent you are in taking actions. The Change Your Game scorecard will help you identify how strong you are in each of those games. Please visit changeyourgamescorecard.com for more information and get your report today. Thank you for listening. Hi there, Beju Solanki here again on the EnSpirit podcast. So what do I want to talk about today? Prolific versus being a perfectionist. The irony is, did I prepare for this podcast, the content of this? I did. The preparation was all the years I've been working in as a coach, as a trainer, as a psychologist. So did I prepare the notes for this podcast, specific podcast? Did I try and get it perfect? Did I try and get every word? Did I try to get my narrative? No. So I'm actually demonstrating here. I'm recording this podcast with the only preparation of my experience. I haven't made any notes. And I want to talk about the power of being prolific over being a perfectionist. So let me just deal with the word perfectionism or being a perfectionist. When you try and aim for something that doesn't actually exist, it's very tiring. So to being a perfectionist, the irony is a perfectionist only looks for imperfections because they look for imperfections to correct. So when you are a perfectionist, you want to get things right. You want to make sure you've got all your ducks in order. You want to make sure that it's a potential sacrifice before you plan. It prevents progress. To be prolific means you progress. Now, there's a balance here. You might argue, well, there's some things, if you just go by the seat of your pants, you might fall on your sword. You may be, but we're talking about things that you know that you over perfect, that you try and get it too perfect, that you have to, oh, it's not me. You don't understand. I need to prepare. You don't understand. I don't want to put anything out there that is not good enough. But the world is waiting for you. The world is waiting for you to be prolific. So let me go back to the idea of perfectionism. A perfectionist looks for imperfections in the world. The perfect doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in your world. You cannot never be perfect. The world is not perfect. The world is evolving. Think about the things in the world. That everything's in a line. The sun's just the right distance away. The plants get enough water. They get enough sand. Our bodies are made up in certain ways that as long as we nurture it with the right nutrition and the right movement, we will function. Yes, there's illnesses. But then we've been given the capacity to come up with medical solutions if we get ill. So think about the world. The world is ever evolving, and there's constant imperfections that occur in the world that allows us to progress. If there was no imperfections in the world, where would our mind go? It'll be stagnant. There's nothing to solve. There's no challenges. There's no problems. There's no nothing. So we need imperfectionism in order for us to progress. So we as individuals, whether we are looking to start a business, launch a product, whether we are finishing a project, some of us have this notion, this perfectionist nature. And that perfectionist nature prevents you making progress. So how can you be more prolific? How can you be more prolific in the face of being perfectionism? Well, number one, it'll be fine. It'll be okay. What I mean by that is this, right? There is never such a disaster that it's not recoverable. Failure is not fatal. And I talk about failure and fatality in other podcasts. So number one, when you're prolific, when you take an action, you have evidence of something. So when you do something that in your mind might be not perfect because you're afraid of a judgment, you're afraid of getting it wrong, you're afraid of failure. When you do the thing, you're going to get feedback. If you put a project out there, if you do some marketing, if you call someone, you're not ready, you're going to get feedback. And that feedback allows you to squeeze more juice out of you. Say the feedback is constructive, say it's criticism. whatever it is, it allows you. So being prolific means you get feedback, which means it allows you to get better. Because if you wait to be perfect, if you wait to get your ducks in order without any feedback from the world, what occurs? You're only going from your own frame of reference. You're only going from what you know. You know what you know. You also know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. Let me repeat that. You know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. So when you have this frame of reference around you of, well, I know what it means to be perfect. I know what I need to do to put things in perfect. There's a vast amounts of information, vast amounts of feedback, vast amounts of stuff in the world that you don't even know that exists, but you're only going to get exposed to the things you don't know by taking an action, by being prolific, by putting something out there. Because when you do that, it creates a vibration, it creates a ripple in the universe, in the world, which means you're going to get feedback from people, from other products and services. You're going to get some feedback, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And that's the thing about being a perfectionist. You want to avoid the bad. You want to avoid the negativity. You want to avoid the confrontation. So you think, if I get all my ducks in order, if I put everything perfect before I do the action, the world can't criticize me. Well, guess what? The world will, because we all have a different frame of reference. We all have a different view of what is right and what is wrong. We all have a different view of what is perfect and what is not perfect. So think about what projects you got today. Think about the things that you are looking to achieve in your life today. List all the things that you're trying to get perfect. Is it a business project? Is it a relationship? Is it something to do with the family? Is it something with friends? Maybe your own health and fitness. You're trying to be too perfect before you take an action. The classic example, when you start to get fit, I want to get all the gear to go to the gym. I want to get the right gym. I want to get all the rest of it. And just go out and walk. Just go for a run. It doesn't matter if you haven't got the right perfect trainers. It doesn't matter whether you've got the right perfect top. You want to start a business, you might think, well, I need to go do a course and start in a business. I need to ensure I need to understand my market. Yeah, you need to know all those things. It's foolhardy not to do some research, but don't fall into the trap of trying to get everything in line, because most of the time, sorry, taking one action, taking small action is the best kind of education you can say than all the theory, all the books that you can read. Do we need to read? You listen to this podcast, right? So you've probably read the title of the podcast. Oh, that's interesting. Or you follow me and you think, right, this will be quite interesting. What can I learn from this? Now, you will listen to this podcast however long it is. Now, if you don't take an action thereafter, it's useless. The information I talk about in this podcast is like fish and chip paper. It's useless the next day. So what are you going to do? So I'm going to give you one small action to do. As soon as you finish listening to this podcast, is list all the projects that you're working on currently, whether it's work related or personal related, and then ask yourself, what if you're on target to finish that project, or you're doing the things. It might be a project that's not to finish, just an ongoing thing. Say a relationship, you want to get a relationship better, or you want to launch something. List all the things that are preventing you doing it, and ask yourself, actually, when is good enough for you? Now you might think, oh my God, that might challenge you. I don't know what's good enough. Get some feedback. Go to 3 or 4 people that you trust. Go to 3 or 4 people that you respect their views, and ask them, look, I'm doing this. I'm looking to get to this point. What do you think? Yeah, it's good enough. Get it out there. Wow. And it might jar you. It might make you feel nervous. It might make you feel a little bit apprehensive to think, really? Just do it. So list all the projects and things that you want to get, conversations you want to have with people down, and ask what's preventing them. And ask, is it a sense of trying to be too perfect? Is it a sense of trying to get too many ducks in a row? Maybe actually, when you look at all those things, you've got enough in place. You don't need to do any more else. So what could you do? Imagine that. Imagine that you let go of your perfectionism and you say, right, just for 7 days, that's the task. Just for 7 days, I'm just going to be prolific and let go of the notion of perfectionism. You can all go back to being a perfectionist if you want to after 7 days. So your 7-day challenge is this: from the moment you finish this podcast, is just be prolific, get things out there, have conversations, launch the product, go on social media, do what you need to do without the notion of being perfect. But you have permission that if it jars you too much, or the feedback is too much, and you think, do you know what, that I couldn't handle the feedback, you can go back to being your perfectionist nature after 7 days. So give it a go, because what you're looking to do there is for 7 days, you're giving yourself permission to be somebody that might not necessarily fit with your frame of reference, but be someone who's prolific. Be prolific, get stuff out there, and see what your prolific individual can talk to your perfectionist individual. Those two alter egos. Have a conversation, those two, and see which one is going to get you what you want and what you desire in your life. I hope you enjoy this podcast. I look forward to seeing and speaking to you very soon. Take care. Thank you for listening. To find out more about myself or the Change Your Game Scorecard, you can visit changeyourgamescorecard.com, where you can find out how strong your game is and get a full detailed report. Also, if you found this episode useful, please do leave a rating or a review in iTunes to help others discover it too. Until the next time, my name is Beju Slanky.